In last night's match, Liverpool were able to completely outnumber Real Madrid in all areas of the pitch. The first press was a 3v2, the midfield was a 3v2, and on most of their attacks they would end up with 6 players in Real Madrid's box. On the other hand, Real Madrid never outnumbered Liverpool in any of their attacking situations. But how were they able to always find the man advantage? In today's video, we're going to be breaking down how Liverpool completely dominated Real Madrid, but we also need to understand what's going wrong with Real Madrid. And there's one clear reason why their attack has been so toothless this season. Let's take a look. Welcome back to Football Meta. Quick announcement before we get started. I've partnered with 2 data analytics companies in Soccerman and Six to bring you a masterclass on the 18th of December. The masterclass is going to focus on the huge tactical shift that is emerging in modern football, with more and more managers opting for relationism principles in their tactics. We're going to be using advanced statistics provided by Soccerman and Six to understand this shift more clearly, along with the different tactical patterns that are emerging between different managers. So make sure to sign up using the link down below. And don't worry if you can't join the masterclass live, as all participants will have access to the recording once the conference has finished. Liverpool hold their spot at the top of the Champions League table with a perfect record so far, while Real Madrid are struggling to say the least. But while Real Madrid did show glimpses of brilliance late on in the match, Liverpool essentially controlled the game from start to finish. In fact, they were able to create chances in a number of different ways. But let's start with their build-up pattern, because this is where the first domino for Real Madrid started to fall, and Liverpool were able to break the press consistently throughout the 90 minutes. Liverpool started the match in a 4-3-3 formation, and are one of the few teams signalling a return to a single pivot midfield, after a few years of 2 pivot midfields completely dominating the tactical landscape. But in this game, it made it tough for Real Madrid to press effectively with their 4-4-2, as it left the midfield exposed. The reason why it worked for Liverpool is because of the subtle positioning around Gravenberch, that gives the back line a lot of options, and forces Real Madrid to make a choice. In fact, when starting their attacks, the fullbacks are in close proximity in the half spaces, usually with Bradley slightly further forward and Robertson closer to Van Dijk. This allows for easy circulation around the back, slowly dragging Real Madrid's wide players in Bellingham and Güler further forward. Once Real Madrid had committed to this 4-2-4 shape, then the initial 3v2 becomes much more apparent, because with Gravenberch always positioned between Mbappe and Brahim Diaz, there was always an option forward. In the moments where Real Madrid closed down this pass, then McAllister comes into the picture, and by dropping deep to receive the ball, they could progress centrally and create more space further forward. In fact, the rotations between McAllister and Jones are one of the key reasons why this midfield worked so well, and would coordinate their movements to find space forward. For example, in this clip here, we can see Liverpool's build-up shape with the fullbacks in close proximity to the centre-backs. In this case, Mbappe and Brahim Diaz had closed off a pass into Gravenberch, so McAllister drops deep to give the centre-back an option. As he receives the ball, Gravenberch is now on the right closer to Jones, creating a 2v1 against Modric that allows them to progress forward. Gravenberch spent the vast majority of time slowly rotating between the 2 forwards, either receiving the ball and playing it forward directly, or rotating to free up players around him in the moments where this pass wasn't available. When Real Madrid completely closed off the centre of the pitch, with Bellingham and Güler playing more centrally to stop this overload, then this is when the fullback's positioning becomes the key to progress forward, as it would leave them with space to receive the pass and connect play with the wingers. But these midfield rotations don't happen in a bubble, and as Liverpool progress further up the pitch, then the rotations of Darwin Núñez also become a crucial component of this team. In this game against Real Madrid, he was constantly dropping deep to receive the ball, with the players around him coordinating their movements forward, and a lot of the times Liverpool's shape resembled even a 4-1-1-4, with third man passes right through the centre. But it's as we get into the final third where the danger of this system starts to emerge, and the main reason why Liverpool are able to get so many players forward on the defensive line. As we saw, Liverpool's progression happens initially through the centre before moving the ball out wide into the wingers. From this position, the 2 box-to-box midfielders will push forward into the half spaces. Then the fullback comes into the picture, either adding support or overlapping on the flank if the winger cuts inside, while the opposite fullback will invert into a more central position to give an option away from the pressure. Depending on how they circulate possession, these players can end up occupying different positions. But there is always this overload being created. In this clip, for example, it starts with Diaz out wide, Robertson in the half space and McAllister in support. The more they rotate, now you have the same combination with Robertson, Jones and Gravenberch. Once they move the ball to the other side of the pitch, Salah, Núñez, Bradley and McAllister are creating this wide overload. This shape is what led to a huge chance for a phenomenal Conor Bradley just before their first goal, forcing Real Madrid to tilt over onto one side of the pitch, before the slightly more central position of Bradley comes into play and can attack forward between the centre-back and the full-back. As they regain possession and try again, it's easy to see why they can end up with so many players in the box. And this was the theme for the vast majority of the night, constantly pushing forward and relying on the rest defense of Van Dijk, Konate and Gravenberch to stop any Real Madrid counter. What's important in Slot's system is the overarching connections between the players, and it can resemble many different shapes depending on the opposition. It's one of the main reasons why at the start of the season Liverpool were relying so much on long balls into the wingers, because as teams pressed them high up the pitch, they exploited the space that was left in behind. But as teams figured out the danger of these direct balls into Salah and Diaz, teams started to play in a slightly deeper position and allowed Liverpool to progress centrally more frequently. Now, Liverpool's structured attacks were extremely dangerous in this match, but another reason why they were able to completely dominate Real Madrid was the speed at which they moved the ball forward after regaining possession. Countless times they would intercept the pass or win the ball back and instantly move the ball into the wingers, with Núñez being extremely aggressive pushing forward. But now we also need to touch on the big issues happening at Real Madrid. Because other than a few moments of individual brilliance that did lead to the penalty, it's a team that's really struggling to figure out exactly what it wants to be this season. And without Vinny Jr. on the flank, it felt like a team with few reference points that would allow them to build attacks consistently. Now, it's no secret that Ancelotti is a manager that gives his players few tactical instructions, and falls more into the school of relationism rather than strict positional play. This is an idea that works extremely well when the players are in form and there's chemistry between them, because it can create situations from nothing. But during periods of downturn where your star players aren't performing, it can cause some serious issues on the pitch, as they lack a specific fullback option that they can rely on. Real Madrid last night started in a 4-2-2-2 shape, and Liverpool would consistently press the centre-backs and rush a pass forward, meaning there were few moments where they comfortably progressed the ball through the lines. And the vast majority of their attacks were counter-attacking situations that were quickly shut down by the centre-backs and the full-backs. But in the situations where they were able to move forward, the structure and shape was completely different every time. A lot of the times they would struggle to get players forward on the defensive line, specifically because Mbappe would always shift over to the left, where he had a nightmare trying to break past Conor Bradley. This would lead to the so-called shoehorn effect, where you end up with no players down the middle, leaving the centre-backs with nothing to do. And it made it easier to double up on any attacks coming from out wide. Even in situations where they broke into Liverpool's box, there were only 3 or 4 players attacking forward, and were completely outnumbered by Liverpool's defensive line. There are countless examples of different shapes being used, and big disconnects between the defensive unit and attacking group of players, meaning it was impossible to outnumber the defense. For example, in this clip here, with a big disconnect between the defense and the attack. As they move the ball over to Mbappe and the fullback overlaps, no one is preventing Konate from shifting over, and as quickly as they can get forward, it becomes a 3v2 with Gravenberch intercepting the pass. Essentially, Ancelotti's philosophy of giving the players the freedom to create chances any way they want works when all the players have chemistry between them. But when there's new players that are not being integrated effectively into the team, it can cause some big disruptions, as all the players seem uncertain on which rotations and passes they should make. But what did you make of this game? Specifically, do you think Liverpool are as good as their results suggest, or is there a weakness waiting to be exploited? Leave your thoughts in the comments down below. If you enjoyed this video, then I recently covered why Man City are struggling so much to perform this season. So if you want to know the tactical reason why Pep Guardiola can't find a solution, then check out this video here. Thanks for watching.